Welcome. I'm Gina Florzak, Selected's Marketing and Communications Manager. Thank you for joining us for Samarima and the launch of our newest member benefit, the Selected Acquisition Marketplace. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping items to go over. During this session, please feel free to type questions into the chat or comments section. These will be monitored and will be part of our live question and answer period at the end of this session. A gentle reminder, the same rules that apply to the online discussion forum apply here. No prices, discounts, fees, or employee compensation shall be discussed. The session will be recorded and added to our archive for member-only viewing. You will receive an email at the end with a very short evaluation. Please take time to complete so we can continue to deliver topics you want to cover. And now I'd like to introduce you to Selected's Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer, Rob Paterkiewicz, who is here to present the Selected Acquisition Marketplace and how it can help revolutionize your future in independent funeral service.
Thanks, Gina. Oh, that's quite an intro. I got a lot to live up to. I'm grateful that you're all here today. And in the span of just a few minutes, I'm going to really try to cover four key things. First, what is the marketplace? Second, why did we create this? Third, as a seller, how can you participate in the marketplace? And fourth, as a buyer, how can you participate in the marketplace? So the marketplace it's a member benefit. It's a tool that we've created to offer options to owners of firms for their succession planning. The goal here is to be able to connect members who are ready to sell with members who are interested in buying or investing in that firm. So again, a member tool designed to help bring these parties together in a safe and private area. The reason why we've offered this is not to promote the sale of member firms, but really it's to meet a need. You know, when we ask members what's on their mind, what is the burning issue that they're dealing with, every time, succession planning is one of the most important areas of concern and areas of focus. We also get a lot of calls. You know, I get calls from owners who say to me privately, hey, I'm thinking about maybe listing my firm, you know, for sale. So if you know of anybody, let me know. Or I'll get notified by a member who says, if you know anybody who's selling, let me know. So we felt like, you know, we should create a place for these folks to be able to come together. And the reason why we did this is because it gives us an opportunity to provide some resources. So you're going to learn a little bit later about some of the resources that our partners, that our sponsors have brought forth to be placed in the marketplace. So whether you become a seller or a buyer, one of the first and most important aspects of this piece that you need to review and agree to is our confidentiality agreement. It's the non-disclosure agreement. And it's really critical because that's what we're relying on, in addition to how we maintain the marketplace, to protect people who are in here. As you can imagine, you know, there's some sensitive information here. And so it's really critical that sellers and buyers review, understand this agreement and agree to it. So for a seller, once they've gone through that process of signing off on that confidentiality agreement, we will ask you a series of questions. And I can assure you that there's only one individual who manages these listings, and that's Bart Miller. So Bart is the only individual who will actually see the information from sellers as well as buyers, and he will maintain that very privately. But sellers will be asked a series of questions about their firm. And as the seller, you have the authority, you have the ability to be as detailed as you want or not. You know, if your preference is to keep this a very private, anonymous listing, that's fine. And we'll work with you to ensure that. If you're interested in adding more detail, we'll certainly be able to work with you as well. So you'll answer a series of questions about your firm, and then we will craft a listing for you to see and approve. You'll also have the ability to make modifications to that listing along the way if you need to. You will then choose whether you want that listing to be up for 3 months or 6 months. So that's your subscription time. It's either a 3-month listing or a 6-month listing. 3 months are $85 a month, and 6 months are $75 a month. As a buyer, again, same thing. We put you through that process of reviewing and agreeing to that non-disclosure agreement. We ask a few questions about your interests as well. And then you're provided with a password to be able to go and review any of the listings that are in place. If you see a listing that you want to learn more about, you'll simply click on the link, which will notify Bart, which will let us know that you're interested in learning more about listing 101. From there, we'll contact the owner of that firm, we'll contact the seller to share information about you and your interest. And then the seller really has the choice of reaching out to the buyer or not. And we have to do it that way so that sellers are protected. There may be reasons why they don't think it's appropriate to reach out to a particular member who has expressed interest. And we'll share this information, obviously, with buyers and sellers. But again, buyers identify firms they want to learn more about. We will do the connection, if you will, between them. But ultimately, it's in the hands of the seller to connect with the potential buyer and begin conversations. And at that point, Selected's out of the picture. This becomes really more of a transaction between those two members. So, the goal, again, as I said, is not only to provide this tool, but to really help with succession planning. And by doing so, our hope is that we can keep any of these firms that are potentially going to be sold independent and part of Selected. And so one of the examples that I want to have you hear about comes from our good friend Chip Billow. Chip and Rick Bisler worked together a few years ago in the sale and acquisition of a couple of Selected firms. And maybe if the marketplace was available back then, they might have connected on it. But nevertheless, it's a story that I think you should hear because it's important for members to see how they can be working together. So Chip, if you will, could you share with us the experience you guys had?
Sure. Well, I'd like to start by thanking all of you for the opportunity to participate today. I'm excited to see Selected develop this type of a program to share with its members. On August 1st, 2018, 2 Selected members, the Bisler Funeral Home and Crematory in Kent and Billow Funeral Homes and Crematory in Akron, became affiliated with much joy shared among its principals and staff and the communities that they served by retaining the historic values and service levels offered by both firms. Rick is not able to participate today because he's assisting his daughter relocate to Richmond, Virginia, but his story needed to be shared as well. But before I share our stories, I'd like to share some general practices that every Selected member should be aware of as they operate their business. Number one is knowing your demographics. What is happening in your community? Is there organic growth, or do you need to look at somebody else to acquire as you try to have a growth strategy? You look at growth in your community, your region, and your state. I'm from Northeast Ohio, and we don't have any organic growth in this section of the state. So it became necessary for me to look at my neighbors, look at my peers, look at my groups. And Selected offers the perfect organization to grow in relationships with your fellow members. We look at merging, affiliating, buying, partnering, whatever term you choose to use. We have now an inherent advantage of culture that can't be matched with the consolidators. One of the things that Bislers and Billows held in common was the fact that we were both members of Selected. And so we have a code of ethics. We have a code of good practice. We have tenets and practices that give us a synergy that really is unmatched. And so I'm excited for this. You know, the Bisslers are multi-generation members of Selected, as the Billows were. My great-great-grandfather, after our merger, we discovered a photo with Rick's great-grandpa standing together in 1918, 102 years ago, next to each other at an Ohio Funeral Directors Association meeting. Rick's uncle, Bob, was a past Selected president, and he served just prior to my dad serving on the board. So there's a natural synergy with our firms that can be cultivated and created just by exercising your membership in Selected today. And this multi-generation knowledge of excellence in funeral service that set a benchmark for respective communities has been joined. And Rick is within a year of my age. He came from an environment that he was looking to see what his future held for his business. And I can remember walking the streets of Columbus 35 or 40 years ago and talking about all the changes in funeral service. You know, in the 1990s, there was a lot of consolidation and a lot of the corporate players became involved in our communities. A lot of us didn't know how to react because this was a new thing. Now we know how to react because we can compete and we can excel and we can persevere and we can have persistence and we can continue to grow our businesses at the same levels, if not what they previously were. Rick didn't have a successor, and Rick took a great interest in the fact that I had a daughter that joined me after college, and soon thereafter a son that came back to Akron because he said he missed his family and the community, but I think he really kind of liked the idea of being involved in a closely held business. So Rick didn't have a successor, and I had two, but Rick was looking to change his lifestyle. He was 65, his wife had retired, and so we talked. And we had talked yearly, if not multiple times a year, about the futures of both of our businesses. I somehow knew this would happen, whether Rick was the assertive one or whether I was the assertive one. But Rick took a chance at a Selected trust event several years ago. Johnson Consulting offered a business valuation. So Rick was a high bidder. And so he spent some time working with the Johnson people. He came back with a valuation. Rick called me up and said, "Hey, Chipper, I did this and I want to talk to you." Wow. You know, Johnson Consulting is a company that I think we can all have faith in the numbers that they produce. And so it became very easy for Rick and I to talk and to keep going and to make this happen. And the one thing that I want to end my remarks with is the fact that there's great flexibility in being a Selected member as to how you choose to structure your deal. You know, where do you move the peas in the shells? How do you mix things around? You know, we don't have to fall into a prototype of a Selected or fall into the prototype of an acquisitor. We can be creative and we can do things. And that's not necessarily the way it is with the consolidators. And I think that's one of the greatest takeaways that we have to share as Selected members. So I've burned through my time real quick, and I'll look forward to talking with all of you throughout the afternoon.
Thank you, Chip, for sharing your and Rick's inspiring story with us. Today, we have folks from the Foresight Companies, Johnson Consulting Group, Live Oak Bank, and Roosevelt Investments with us. They are Selected preferred partners who sponsor the Selected Acquisition Marketplace and will be sharing some resources and options they have to help whether you're looking for succession planning options or looking to expand your firm. To begin with, we have Doug Gober of the Foresight Companies. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you, and thank you to the entire Selected organization for pulling this together. I'm Doug Gober with the Foresight Companies, and I thought, following Chip's lead, I thought maybe I would just share a little quick history of my Selected independent history. Literally goes back to 1978 when, as a 23-year-old rep for Batesville Casket Company, the first customer I ever met in funeral service was a man named Billy Pegues. And I know that many of you from from the NSM days. Remember Billy Pegues, of course. Over the next several years after that, Mr. Pegues taught me what it meant to be a member of NSM. Billy went on to be president of your organization and I believe a board member for a number of years. Another influencer in my life was an outsider to this business, a marketing guru by the name of Alton Doody, who eventually became my business partner. He was publicly introduced to funeral service when he presented at the NSM National Convention in 1988, where he began his comparison of the retail world to funeral service. I was lucky enough to tag along with him on that day, and I will tell you, I've had many opportunities through the years since to interact with many of your members in what is now the well-respected Selected Independent Funeral Homes. Along with my partner, Chris Kruger, Chris is flying right now and couldn't be with us on this call, but Chris and I, we own and operate the Foresight Companies with offices in Houston and Tulsa, St. Petersburg, New Orleans, and our home office in Phoenix, Arizona. Chris and I are proud to be sponsors of the Selected Acquisition Marketplace. At the Foresight Companies, we are very passionate about the funeral and cemetery profession and are strong advocates of independent ownership and fostering the next generation of leaders into the funeral profession. Our singular focus is our client success. We do provide efficient business solutions for independent businesses of all sizes and have the ability to maintain, of course, as Rob was alluding to earlier, the confidentiality and credibility and trust of our clients, as does Selected Independent Funeral Homes. We think this is a great match. Our track record demonstrates that we convert business analytics into business success, and we advise our clients using both experience and technique on strategies to improve their profitability, grow their business, and ensure a brighter financial future. What happened? I hope
I'm sharing the screen. I'm
good.
sharing the screen so everyone can see the resources that y'all have to offer.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to refer right to that. Thank you so much. Foresight has a wide variety of service offers to assist the funeral business. However, as it specifically relates to the reveal today of the selection acquisition marketplace, there are three areas of our business that we've highlighted that sort of support this effort. When viewing the Selected Acquisition Marketplace landing page, as you see in front of you, you'll find that there are resources there to help in the buying and selling process, such as fact sheets on our valuation services, business representation for potential sellers, and business acquisition for potential buyers. There's a lot of data available, not only from us, but through all the sponsors that you see there. And I'm sure the other guy's going to refer to this as well. So thanks for bringing that up. But there is a lot of good information for buyers and sellers on that page that you see in front of you right now. And so our piece of this, our mission is to make sure that we just guide our clients with solution-based services through the process of buying and selling their business. I will say that since many of the firms we work with have never bought or sold a funeral business, the process itself can be quite cumbersome and sometimes pretty overwhelming. You need a professional, and we can help. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that before your business is ever listed in the Selected Acquisition Marketplace, you need a written plan for when you expect it to be listed on the marketplace and how to maximize its value before it's ever listed there. We have helped many of your independent colleagues nationwide create that important written plan. You can also visit our website to learn more or contact us directly or speak with me to speak with me or Chris or one of our team members. I will tell you that we are incredibly encouraged by this new membership offer by Selected Independent Funeral Homes and excited to be a preferred partner with your organization. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about Foresight and what we bring to the table and to support this exciting expansion of your member benefits. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing, Doug. Now let's hear from Bob Ekins with Johnson Consulting Group. Thanks for joining us, Bob.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Rob. On behalf of Johnson Consulting Group, we appreciate this time to share with you all today. As Gina said, my name is Bob Ekins. I have the unique pleasure of visiting with the majority of funeral home owners that contact Johnson Consulting Group to discuss succession planning, exit planning, valuations, what have you, obviously all in very confidential discussions. As you might imagine, I've heard a thing or two from all across this great profession, from those that have been thinking about it for years and finally getting around to calling. We understand it's a difficult and emotional first step, so we're very sensitive in those discussions. There's those that are, say, turning 68 years old this year and know they ought to start doing something. As they say, it's better late than never. Because periodically and unfortunately, I'll get a call a time or two from surviving sons or daughters that have to tell me that their father passed away last month and he owned a funeral home. And what do they do now? I share these situations. My wish is for everyone to take very seriously the responsibility to plan ahead. Do it for your employees, your community, your family, and yourself. As consultants in this profession, Johnson Consulting, we are seeking all the various solutions for our clients. There's typically more than one solution to consider. And it's a very, usually your largest asset, so we want to obviously take that into consideration as well. Our preference, as you can imagine, is to see these businesses transferred to another family member or key employee. If that is not feasible, then we look to outside options. For that reason, it's important for what Selected has done here. It's also important for all interested parties to let us know that they're interested and have them in mind when we come up with opportunities across the country. So a couple resources available in the marketplace. We put our checklist out there. They're really just some thought starters for you. What succession might look for your situation. We want to make sure we kind of get your financials in good order. So anything you can be doing ahead of time to get your financials in good shape. As Chip referred to, evaluation is obviously a great idea to get your business before transferring it to someone. And then also the real estate value. Those seem to be across the country. Real estate value is becoming more and more challenging for the situation of business transfers here in the funeral space, just because a lot of them are located in where real estate values are just continuing to increase. And then as we like to call it crystal ball, Chip also referred to this earlier, is kind of knowing your demographics, knowing what's going on in your area. What do you need to be doing? What's the future look like? And some other resources we threw on the, and we'll continue to update our resources on the marketplace, but have a couple webinars that Jake Johnson has facilitated in the past, sharing some of his insights. We like to educate people on benchmarking, what expenses need to be looking like, and dive into some of our value matrix. What makes one funeral home value higher than the others, even if they're similar. And it goes to a whole host of different pieces and categories that things would fall into, whether you got multiple locations or what your pre-need look like, and all the things that are kind of behind the scenes and aren't just financial numbers. Our team is available for a confidential conversation to assist in that journey. Please reach out for a private consultation at any time. We look forward to supporting and sponsoring the Selected Acquisition Marketplace. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Next up, we have Tim Bridgers with Live Oak Bank. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank Selected for the opportunity to be here. It's been a wonderful partnership over the years, very valuable, and we're very grateful. I'm very happy to see this platform launch. It's been a conversation that Rob and I and many others have had for some time, and we saw a great need to provide a solution. And it's wonderful to see the partners here today. Live Oak Bank is an FDIC insured bank, a nationwide bank. We have currently originated about $13.6 billion as of 2020 from the day we started in 2008. And we are the largest SBA lender and USDA lender in 2019 and 2020. When you look at that from the lens of the funeral profession, we have an entire team of lenders, underwriters, closers, customer service representatives, even construction specialists that speak the language of the funeral profession as an entire team. And the goal is to provide a seamless, comfortable solution throughout the loan process. So we have a robust servicing model as well. And we love to talk about our servicing model because what is a loan unless we ensure that that loan is successful over the long run? So we're not the bank that just closes the loan and walks away and only knocks on your door when things are bad. We're really here for you throughout the life of the loan. I would tell you today, after hearing Doug and Bob speak, I was thinking about how do we fit into this process, and I'm sure many of you are asking the same things. We each have a role. We each have a play in your success in the transactions that you are soon going to be looking at, whether you're selling or buying. It's always healthy to understand a bank's perspective. A bank's perspective is going to help set expectations, especially if you're pursuing debt to finance your first, second, or third business, or maybe more. So it's important to understand that perspective, and that will help avoid timely and costly mistakes as you progress through the process. I think when you think about Doug, you think about Bob, and certainly not advocating one over the other in this setting. I think what you see is a partnership to where you utilize their resources to learn how to get to a point to meet the bank's expectations in the event that you are securing debt. So again, very, very important information. You can see on our website or the selected website, we have added some resources that I think can be very valuable to you. We have the sell sheet that basically just helps you understand what we offer. We are a one-stop shop. The only thing we really don't finance are rolling stock, so hearses, but everything else from retorts to large acquisitions in the $30 to $35 million range, we can facilitate, from SBA to non-SBA, more traditional type mortgages that you may be accustomed to. So that sell sheet will outline that at a 30,000 foot level. We also have an acquisition guide. And again, that's from a bank's perspective. And it's to help you think about all the things that we're going to need to see and we're going to want to see when you approach us. And then we have the acquisition process, which is a more broken down, high level process for you to look at as you're thinking about this. And we have a couple case studies for you to review the process and what we've been able to do for customers along the way. You'll see us mention this all the time, that we're very consultative in our approach. Consultative in our own way from a bank's perspective. And again, not to replace consultations that's needed in terms of valuation and determining price. That is not what we do. But consultative in a way that we're non-commission based, and we bring a non-commission based perspective to you from a banking perspective to talk about cash flow, to talk about debt service, to talk about the future implications of taking this loan out. At the end here, look, our goal is to make sure you're successful over the 10 to 15 to 20 years that you have this loan. And if you're not, we're not successful. So again, I want to thank Selected for the opportunity to be a part of this. We're here for you and for both parties, both the buying and the selling side. We want to make this seamless, and one conversation, whether you go with Live Oak or not, can save you a lot of time and money. And we look forward to talking with you.
Thank you, Tim, for sharing. Last, but certainly not least, we have Corie Gabriel with Roosevelt Investments. Hi, Corie.
Hi there. Good afternoon. Welcome to my son's playroom, which is the only open room in my apartment today, as Doug pointed out earlier. One of the benefits to me going forth is sort of all the other partners gave most of the important information, so I can be short and sweet. Roosevelt has quite a few benefits available to Selected members. More will come, but I think we have one very specific service that is relevant to the acquisition marketplace and really complements some of the other services that folks were sharing. For over 30 years now, we've been helping funeral service professionals try and determine what their number is. Now, you're going to have all these other tools and resources you're going to need to utilize, whether it's valuation, There's folks that are going to help with financing. There's folks that are actually going to help you execute the deal. But where we tend to be brought in is very early on in your decision-making process to really understand what your needs are. You know, Chip earlier used the example that Mike got the valuation from Johnson Consulting, and he wanted to talk about it. Now, one example is, was that how relevant was that valuation to what Mike's needs were? So where we tend to be brought in is specifically with sellers trying to figure out their future plans and decide what their needs are long-term. What number do they need to live their life the way they want to and the way their family needs them to live long-term? A real-world example is I was speaking with a funeral home operator who was being courted by two separate companies. They were both offering different figures. He thought the business was actually worth more than they were both offering. I asked him, what are your needs? What number do you need to live the life you want to live the rest, ongoing for your family? So that's what we try to bring to the table. We help with the real planning to help you just uncover what your needs are and, determine what your number is. So as this progresses, we are going to add more resources to the platform, but we're here for conversations whenever you need. The earlier you bring us in to understand what your goals are and what your numbers are, then it really helps with the planning that you'll be doing with Johnson, with Foresight. When you go talk to Tim at the bank, the more planning you do early on, the better prepared you'll be to actually execute a transaction. And the reverse is true as well. Firms that are buying, they're going to have X amount of expenses every month ongoing for the foreseeable future to afford that transaction. So we can help them understand sort of what their needs are and how they're going to accomplish paying for a transaction at some point down the road. So we're here for, calls or questions anytime. Feel free to email or reach out.
Thank you, Corie. And thank you to all of our preferred partners participating today for your resources and support of the Selected Acquisition Marketplace. Now, I'd like to open the discussion up to our participants today who may have asked any questions to any of our presenters. You can either type questions in the chat box or ask freely. Okay, any questions?
Hey, Gina, I'll jump in. I don't necessarily have a question. Stephanie Fabia, Partners and Meetings Manager at Selected. Just wanted to thank all of our preferred partners for being on the call, for sponsoring and helping to bring this resource to life, and for all of the education and tools and support that they're providing on that landing page. I think Corie was the one that said, it's never too early to reach out to the partners. If you've got questions, it's never too early to start engaging with them about first steps. And feel free to engage with and reach out to any of them if you've got questions. I'm available. Also, anyone on the staff is available too. If you've got questions about the marketplace or about which partner might be the right one that you are looking to talk to. But again, just really want to thank them all for their invaluable support.
And I'll add to that for a moment. This is Corie again. Just to that point, you may not even be thinking about going through a transaction, but you really just want to understand long-term what your needs are, how much money you need to generate from your business. As Bob mentioned, the business is going to be probably the biggest part of your net worth long-term. And, an exit for you may not be 5, 10, 15 years down the road, but understanding what your needs are, what your number is, becomes important, even if you're not thinking about going through a transaction in the near term.
Thank you, Corie. I do have a question that came through, and this one is for Rob, but could be for anyone. What is the first step for someone considering selling?
In terms of using the marketplace or just
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, I think go take a look at the area. It's under the tools section in the on the selected website. We've tried to be as comprehensive as we can possibly be in providing explanation of how to create your listing. And as I said earlier, you can be as descriptive as you want or not. You can keep it as anonymous as you'd like as well. So once you've gone through and signed off on that confidentiality agreement, then you'll move to the next section, which will appear, and that's where we ask some questions about your business. What, how old is the business? How many employees? What's your volume? Those types of things. And then once you start answering those and submit that, we'll begin working on your listing. You will also then be asked to identify, as I said, whether you're going to list that firm for 3 months or 6 months. And throughout the whole process, we're there to answer any questions that you might have. But we've made it pretty easy to be able to craft a listing that's to your liking. And again, that listing is only viewable to subscribers who sign on and also agree to the same terms that you agreed to. So it's not going to be on a public page of any website. It will be in a secure area with password protection. And as a seller, you also will have access to the listings. So it's not just the buyers, but sellers will also be given access to see other listings as well.
Thank you, Rob. We do have another question that came through. Will there be an opportunity to monitor or see how other transactions happen within the marketplace?
That's a good question. Right now, because of the fact that once we hand off to the seller, once we hand off the buyer's contact information, our preference is to let those two take it from there. However, like in the example that Chip shared earlier, if a sale takes place and it occurred on the marketplace, and we have the ability to share some of that information, I'm certain that we will. But if the two parties feel that this needs to be kept private, we'll certainly respect that. So again, it's not built in a way to show what happens all the way to the end. It's really built in a way to be able to pair up a seller with as many potential buyers as possible, and then let that individual take it from there.
Thank you, Rob. There is another question that came through, and this really speaks to the more traditional side of the fact of multi-generational funeral home ownership. And one of our participants really would like to see the continuation of that within his firm. And the question is, what is Selected doing to enhance that part of succession planning?
Yeah, this is just one of those benefits that we're trying to offer to help in succession planning that might involve the actual sale or purchase of the firm. But outside of that, or to say in addition to that, we're always trying to present as many options as possible for a succession within the family, right? Or a succession within the current staff. In fact, Amy Hunt and the programming work group, which I have the ability to sit in on, we're already working on a program for the conference this September that will do exactly this. That will showcase other ways to put a succession plan in place for the longevity of that firm, whether it's with family or it's with current employees, or it becomes an investment opportunity where a number of people come together. So we're trying to show every possible way to ensure the continuation of that business and ensure that it remains independent, whether that's selling it to another member or getting some direction on how to sell it, how to place it within the next generation of ownership as well. And I think too, again, each of our sponsors here, and I echo what Steph said, we're so grateful to you guys for the financial support to be able to allow us to launch this, but also for all the resources that you're adding to the site. There's tremendous resources already, and we're just opening the doors. And I know there's more to come. So that's an area that all members, regardless of whether they subscribe to this or not, all members have the ability to go, look through that list and click on it. And certainly we encourage them to connect with our sponsors to get some guidance, right? Get guidance on proper valuation, get guidance on how to make sure that you're presenting your business in the best light possible. Get guidance on, how to talk to your family about the future ownership of that business. I mean, all of this stuff is it's complicated and important. And so we're trying to provide every possible resource we can to help members. And selfishly, we want to make sure these firms stay independent. We want to make sure these firms remain with Selected. It's disappointing sometimes when I get a phone call from an owner who says, "Hey, just letting you know, we sold. And we sold to XYZ Corporation, right? Or we sold to ABC Private Equity." And I'm like, "Oh, gosh, sure wish we could have kept you, Oh yeah, I wish we could have as well. But I didn't know of any members who were interested in buying." And so, one of the things we're trying to do with the marketplace is to make sure that doesn't happen as often as we were seeing it, certainly pre-pandemic.
I think
I can also, one more thing I think is so important, Rob, and I mentioned it, and so did a couple of the other sponsors. The 4 sponsors that are involved in this can assist in any kind of transaction, whether that be a fee simple sale to the next generation, or whether it be some kind of planned methodology of moving that business from one to the next. But the thing I wanted to chime in on here is it is so critical of the timing of that. Yeah. That must be planned years, not months in advance. There are all kinds of things to take advantage of if you simply have a good written plan. And have everybody on board that's going to be involved, whether that's a key employee or one of your children, or whether it's another person that you've already had conversations with for years, that I'm eventually going to transfer this business to you because he's 15 years your junior. Regardless of who that is, the timing of that is so critical. Everyone on this call could make a list of 80-year-olds who are still hanging on to this business for dear life because they don't have a plan. And that is a critical problem in our business. And then a life's event occurs, and it doesn't have to be a death. It can just simply be some life's event occurs, and then it's very difficult to pull that whole thing together and do it right in 6 months. And so because of the life's event. And so it's so important to plan.
Yeah, Doug, that's the God's truth right there. I had a buy-sell agreement with my father that was begun when he was 65. My father died this last year, coming up on Yahrzeit 1-year anniversary, at 92. I've known for 30 years what the future of our business was between my father's generation and me. And now that I'm 65, I'm doing the same thing with my children. And I'll be reaching out to Preferred Partners to get guidance on this, because these are parts of ongoing businesses to keep them strong and independent. And these lead to the next steps, which are what we're talking about today. But this is just a natural flow of discussion for what we're doing today, is to reverse the time clock, start it today to plan to tomorrow. To Corie's point, there's a lot of guidance and counsel out there that can help us be strong and independent and have a plan.
Yeah, Chip, to your point, and I just want to say this real quick. You would be surprised at the percentage of loan requests that we see to where the seller is asking for an amount that just will not work for the buyer that they want to sell to. They've already identified the buyer and it just will not work. And they've identified that price because, like Corie said, they've identified they need that amount for retirement, you see. So they've identified what they need. They've set their asking price. They've listed on the marketplace that price, but they've failed to talk to the other components of the process, and that's the consulting groups, the valuation process, the bank, right? So Chip, as you said, it is so important, and I can tell you because we see it every day, 80 or more % of transactions have an unrealistic expectation of price involved. So I just urge you, take advantage of the list of resources on this website. Don't feel like you're obligated by talking to us, but as a member of Selected, I urge you to take advantage of it. It will save you time, and you will end up getting most likely what you expect to get, but it's going to take you a year or two in advance to do that. So if you take away anything from me today, it will be that.
Are there any more? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, on the acquiring another funeral home side of it, maybe this is for Chip or Bob or anyone else that's had experience in this category. I thought I was going to have a little bit more time with my competitor right down the street, who's not a selected independent funeral home. We've always kind of gotten along, but we do, compete for each other's businesses. Anyway, Dad, who's 91, finally died. There's 2 boys in their 60s, and they have a sister who's not in the business. It's going to be definitely a cash transaction deal. And for me to go there, and I've already planted seeds over the years, showing my interest, but does anyone have any thing they can add as far as, I feel the pressure because I know SCI is already knocking on their door to go and knock on their door. I've already went to visitation, sent flowers, but now it's time to do business. How do I go walk in the door and, SCI can write a check today. I can't, and they're going to want cash. Any ideas?
I think everybody's money is as green as the others. And if you have the ability to cultivate a relationship and to gain trust and to talk to people, I think it's amazing what can happen. Same thing just happened south of us in Canton over the last year. Arnold Funeral Home, a selected member, cultivated a relationship with a colleague / competitor and executed a purchase, Mike. And it's about gaining trust, talking about the merits and values of your firm and how, if cultures match, great. If they don't, it's an opportunity to blend cultures and create a new way of doing business together. Mm-hmm. But I think keeping businesses independent rather than, if I had a nickel for every time I was the last man standing negotiating for other funeral homes in our area before it was offered to the consolidators, I could, maybe have 25 cents in my pocket because I've tried it 4 or 5 times. And, I think I stand a much better chance today than maybe I did when I was 40 or 35 having these discussions. But it's about building trust and relationships. And, we all have selected peers we can continue to cultivate those with, but we also have other funeral homes that are independently owned and like-minded that we can grow those relationships.
Mike, I will tell you that there is no substitute whatsoever. None of us who are available as sponsors here to assist in these transactions, none of us can do what Chip just described.
Yeah.
There is no substitute for you having a face-to-face conversation with those heirs. That is the best way for you to open the door of that conversation. And it seems like you're taking advantage of the circumstances, but they're probably over there wondering when you're going to show up.
Yeah.
And so there is no substitute for you having that face-to-face conversation. We're making regularly anonymous calls to firms that, somebody's called me and said, hey, I think so-and-so is about ready to sell. Would you call them for me? Because I'm working for another funeral home and I don't want them to know I'm looking.
Mm.
And so we're making these anonymous calls on a regular basis. And it may be somebody that knows us or knows one of our sponsors here, but there is still no substitute for that person making that face-to-face contact themselves, at least initially, for sure.
Great, thank you.
Are there any more questions? Comments? Really great discussion, everyone. Rob, is there anything you'd like to add before we conclude today's Samarama?
Gina's been having so much fun with the Samarama thing. So I just want to thank you, Gina, for putting all this together. Obviously, thanks to everybody for being here today, and for the members. We're going to post this up on the marketplace area for other members to see. So, we're excited at the launch. I will tell you, though, that we're not done with this. Our goal is to continue to add more to it, add certainly more resources. We're currently looking at the possibility of offering another area in the marketplace where we can have broker listings of businesses for sale, funeral businesses that may not necessarily be part of the membership. We want to be able to offer as many opportunities as possible, not just to help members with succession planning of their firms, but also with helping members to invest and grow. That's a really important piece of this as well. So if you have ideas that you want us to consider to add to the marketplace, by all means, let me know. Just give me a call or shoot me an email. But again, my thanks to everyone for being here, and my sincere thanks again to our partners. They've really stepped up in a big way and given us the ability to launch this and offer it to you.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you again for participating in today's Samarama. Before we conclude, I want to thank Chip Billow, the Foresight Companies, Johnson Consulting Group, Live Oak Bank, and Roosevelt Investments for sharing your insights and ideas in independent funeral home acquisition, succession planning, and growth. After this session, we encourage you, as Rob said, to visit the Selected Acquisition Marketplace at selectedfuneralhomes.org/tools/SAM. Be sure to look for the post-session evaluation. We'll also be sending you a recording of this, and any materials we shared here, we will include the tools section at the Selected website. Have a great day, everyone.